are there any questions from the audience?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mpolai Koloko. I'm from the Sasol Foundation as a STEM education manager. So I'm passionate about education in STEM, more especially, but developing youth as a whole. Directed to Eureka, how do you really balance being a deputy principal and the YCAP mentor, and have you encouraged other schools to participate? That is impacting other schools and encouraging them, and how also has that contributed to the performance of your school as a mentor and motivator also?
Thank you for the question. For the first 4 years, I was a level 1 educator working with the YCAP team. So I had the time, even though I was level 1, you have to still balance your time because you're full-time teaching in the classroom, and you have to make sure that you work with them after school. Sometimes, even if it's on holidays, you call the learners and you work with them during that time. But recently, after I've been promoted, I've realized that YCAP is about getting into partnership. It's about mentoring other teachers on the staff, because anything could happen to me and I don't want the project to die off. So I've got younger staff that's within the premises, and why keep knowledge to myself? Because the whole idea is sharing the knowledge, building the community, and making the impact. So therefore, I have 2 younger ladies that have joined my team, and that they have been learning about how to do the project and how to work with learners. So that is my way forward to balance my profile as a deputy principal and to work with the YCAP project. I don't think I would ever want to give up the YCAP project because it gives meaning to my life. I can't see myself behind a desk doing admin because that's not what I am about. The YCAP has already started something, this fire burning in me, so I cannot put it off. So it just means that I have to find a way of getting others involved, but still keeping my fire burning, because people are looking up to me as a leader, and a leader has to stand up for what is right and make the challenges not totally disappear, but lessen it for the community that is really struggling out there. And that's where my heart is. It's just finding that balance and keeping that fire burning. And also, just before we came into the YCAP today to Johannesburg, yesterday we reached out to a local school, taking our presentation and speaking about our sick bay. And that is what we are doing. It's not just because it's part of the YCAP portfolio submission. It's spreading the awareness that this school is doing this kind of work, and this is what they are implementing. And so to motivate the community, because the community seems very lacked and relaxed, and then we want to come in as this this idea that's evolving, and this idea that's making a change, and this program that's making children get back to what is really important, not just sitting as passive learners, but becoming active in the learning process. So we've been to a school, and we're also targeting the high schools in our area, because we want to make that change, not just for primary schools. So I think it's about balancing. That's very important, and getting other teachers. So if you have a fire, don't keep that fire within you. Pass that stick onto her, and then she lights up, and that's how we start the change agent, and we start making a contribution to a positive society. We stop complaining and we start doing.
That's it, exactly. Stop complaining and start doing. YCAP's a movement, it's not just a program.
The next question is directed to Mbuyiselo. We have a challenge of our youth that they undervalue education, and they actually think that you can be parachuted and be an influencer without building your own rapport or being having the accolades that you have. How do you really tap into that space so that you unlock the youth's thinking and mentality? And do you ever find an opportunity to be able to say, hi, I'm actually a master's graduate? And also, how do you pass that level of saying, I left this career for that one?
That was a good question. Thank you. As the youth, we like instant gratification, and people think, especially in this era where you could go viral and then tomorrow you're a superstar, people think you can easily supplement hard work. So education is very important. And also anything that has to do with showbiz is quite simple. You know, they call you an influencer because you influence people. Once people do not like you tomorrow, what's going to happen with you? And there's also cancel culture as well. So you always have to have, it's not even just backup, have a foundation of education. I don't know, I call it backup or something to fall back on. I find those words sometimes, not appropriate. I just have that foundation of education. It's very important. I always emphasize that. Secondly, even with influencing and being in showbiz, education is still very important. You get a brief from a client, so education gives you discernment. You're able to read and say, this does not align with my values. You're able to say how, for example, a brand could give you a brief and you say, I don't think this message, how we're going to communicate this message is appropriate. It teaches you how to read the room. For example, you could get, even right now there's just so much noise around immigration laws and whatnot in South Africa. But if you have that education, you're able to read a brief and say, right now, the tone, I don't want to be tone deaf. I want to be, you need to have a sort of an understanding of what is happening on the ground. So education really goes a very long ways. For me, I always debate with whichever brand I get to work with. Before I even do something, I say, wait, I'm not going to do this until we agree on this. What message are we communicating and how is it going to land? What impact are we also leaving? Because I know a lot of people, when they just accept brand because there's just money, but what impact are we leaving? So I always think of those things. Not just right now that you need money, you need to get money, but long-lasting impact. I'm sure most of us right now, you still remember adverts that you watched like 10 years ago, maybe it's Joko, Frisco, you still remember those things. They leave an impression. So I'm also very careful because you do not know what I do today may have a long-lasting impact in someone's life. So I'm always very careful. So thanks to that foundation of education. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And then the last one is to you, Amanda. How do you select schools to participate in your program? Thank you.
So we actually work in collaboration with the Department of Education. We have an MOU with the National Department. Unfortunately, last night they had a big problem that they have to go to now. Otherwise they would have been here. But we do have another representative and I'm going to make you talk for them. Putting you on the spot now. But so we work with the national, provincial and district level of the Department of Education, and this program is focused on the lower quintile schools. So quintile 1 to 5 is 1 to 3 is the main ones, but we accept any schools that want to participate because we want social cohesion. So we want learners from different backgrounds to get to understand each other and to learn different cultures and languages and to see how other people live and how they solve their problems and maybe learn from each other as well. So at nationals you'll see a mixture, and there will be some ex-model Cs. You'll see some rural schools, you'll see some that are in between, that more urban, but as Shadi said, urban, but then having township learners at the urban schools. So there's a mixture, but 90% is basically the low quintiles. And the nice thing about the program is that although you start out feeling like you are, that level and, there's an ex-model C, they're going to have a fancy PowerPoint, they're going to beat us. Always the rural schools beat them, always. And they're just shocked. Because they're like, we always win things, how come now we're not winning? But it's not about the fancy PowerPoint, it's about the impact.
Sure.
Exactly, so that's the short answer.